It is 6 p.m. I'll call the meeting to order. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's July 16, 2022 revised order extending remote participation by all members in any meeting of a public body. This meeting of the Great Barrington Select Board will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and a requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. And as you can see tonight, we are started as a trial to have the select board in person, and our hopes at the next meeting we will allow public in, but we will continue to be hybrid. So no need to rush in. If you're home and you want to stay that way, that's fine. Pursuant to MGL 7C 30A, Section 20F, after notifying the chair of the public body, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting of a public body or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any such recording. This meeting is being recorded by the town, by the Berkshire Edge, and by the Berkshire Eagle, as well as members of the public. Any member of the public wishing to speak at the meeting must receive permission of the chair. The listing of agenda items are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. Start with a roll call vote. Garfield Reed.
Aye.
Eric Gabriel.
Aye.
Ed Abrams.
Here.
Lee Davis.
Aye.
And Steve Bannon present. We have two sets of minutes, September 12th, 2022 and September 19th, 2022. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of September 12th, 2022 and September 19th, 2022.
Second.
Any discussion? All votes are roll call. Garfield.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
And I. It's unanimous. Select board's announcements or statements. Garfield.
Nothing, thank you.
Eric.
I have nothing at this time. Thank you.
Ed.
Other than nice to be back, but nothing.
It's good to see you. Lee.
Nothing.
So I do have, I guess I'll take up all the other select board members' time. We, as a select board, had asked the town staff and town council come up with a statement concerning Housatonic Water Works. It's just more of a factual statement on our stance. So I will read this. If I lose my voice, I'll turn it over to Lee. So since at least the summer of 2018, the customers of Housatonic Water Works Company have been forced to deal with on a recurring basis discolored and or roily water. The water coming out of the taps during these periods is water that no one would want to drink or use, and water no one should be required to drink or use. Customers have also experienced water line breaks and service disruptions. As members of the public are aware, and as the board has discussed on various occasions, the Housatonic Water Works Company has been the subject to various requests and their directives from the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection regarding water quality and water treatment measures. On August 1st of this year, the DEP issued a notice of enforcement action to the company that included a modified administrative consent order regarding maximum contaminant levels, in particular, haloacetic acid. On that same date, DEP approved the company's permit application for a manganese treatment pilot study. However, in September 1st, 2020, in a September 1st, 2022 letter to the company, in response to the company's request for modifications to the pilot study requirements, the DEP made note that the company had not yet requested inspection of the pilot treatment system, putting in question the ability to capture 2022 data for the challenging summer season time period. Unfortunately, these recent communications and conditions reflect an ongoing problem that has not been solved, either to the reasonable satisfaction of the Housatonic Water Works customers or this select board and the government of this town. This is terribly frustrating for the select board, and we can only imagine how frustrating it is for the customer of Housatonic Waterworks. By this statement today, the select board is expressing its unequivocal support for all Housatonic Waterworks customers who are impacted by this situation. We want to assure you and all the town's residents that we are looking at every avenue to obtain appropriate relief. In particular, we are exploring all options for any state or federal funding that can be used to provide financial assistance and sustainable substitute water when needed. Further, we see this problem as part of a larger question of ensuring the reliable supply of safe and clear water to the residents of Housatonic. In June of this year, the group Residents for Clean Water submitted a letter to the governor with various requests for action, including an audit of the Housatonic Waterworks by the Massachusetts Department of Public Utilities. This board endorsed that audit request in our letter to the governor dated July 25th, 2022. We copied our letter to state officials and with applicable oversight responsibility, including the DPU and the DEP. We are disappointed that to this point, we have had little response to our communication to these officials. However, we will continue to advocate for residents of Housatonic and for the town as a whole to obtain appropriate action on behalf of our citizens. We are aware of the August 1st, 2022 Housatonic Waterworks letter to its customers regarding discolored water, the manganese removal pilot proposal to DEP, and the estimated cost for system upgrades. That letter reports that the cost would result in nearly doubling the annual charges for customers who are at the minimum monthly fee service level. On September 19th, the company sent another letter to customers stating that many of the component costs in the estimate have increased. The letter does not specify the amounts of those increases, but describes some of them as dramatic. This means that the price for the upgrades will exceed $4 million and that consequent impact to the customers will only multiply. The September 19th letter proposes additional and alternative measures to address the problem of discolored water, admitting that the color is disturbing and needs to be corrected. The alternatives proposed include collaborative actions with the company's service communities, Great Barrington, Stockbridge, and West Stockbridge, as well as the Great Barrington Fire District, such as interconnection of water systems. While these alternatives may offer opportunities for better and more reliable service, they would require both new infrastructure and various levels of negotiation and a regulatory approval, steps that would take time. There is no quick fix that the town can impose or implement on its own. If there were, the town would have taken the action to make it happen. The company's letter of September 19th also asked for town support for the company's proposed rate increase. We realize that capital improvements do require design and construction costs, but the company's cost estimate for system upgrades is troubling to us. We are also concerned that customer relief still appears to be many months away. The request for town support of an unspecified rate increase does not sit well with this board. To the company's customers and to all residents of this town, we firmly state that the select board remains committed to the cause of clean and reliable water service for our citizens, and that we will do everything we can to ensure that any expenditures approved by the DPU are not only fair to the customers of Housatonic Waterworks, but will result in a real and lasting benefit to all customers who have been bearing an unacceptable burden for too long. At the same time, the board will pursue all viable options for a comprehensive solution to the overall issues of water service to the Housatonic residents. In 2022, in this town and this state, clean and reliable water should be available to everyone. Sharon, do you have something you want to ask? Sharon Gregory, just unmute yourself and quickly, please.
No, I didn't I didn't raise my hand, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Town managers report, that dovetails into it.
Okay, thanks, Steve. I have a few items on my list for tonight, beginning with Housatonic Waterworks, and I just wanted to mention that we will meet in executive session later this evening to continue our strategy sessions with our attorney, And included in the posted board packet for this evening is a letter from the Board of Health, and it was shared with the full board when we received it, but it's included in tonight's agenda packet just to publicly acknowledge receipt of that letter.
May I add a comment about the Sonic Waterworks? Tell her on it. The select board sent a letter to Sonic Waterworks asking them to consider providing bottled water, which they told us they weren't authorized to do by the state. And I just want to point out that on the September 28th letter from DEP, it specifically said to Sonic Waterworks, consideration should be given to providing alternate water to those most sensitive customers, including the elderly and the children. So I just want to point out that they are now authorized by the state to do that. I don't know that it's worth us sending another letter asking, but just so everyone knows.
Thank you.
Moving on to Houstonic School, the two developers that moved forward into phase 2 will be back before this board on October 24th. I just want to let everyone know that we extended their deadline by a few weeks since there's a 2-week gap in your meeting schedule this month. So anyone interested in hearing detailed presentations will want to be sure to be present that evening, and we'll include some time on the agenda for a Q&A session for everyone in attendance. Moving on to Mason Library HVAC, after a very lengthy and difficult process to repair or replace the HVAC system at the Mason Library, we finalized our bid process and awarded the contract to Allstate Construction from Connecticut last week. So that's good news. The contract requires the unit to be installed and operational by June 15th. So staff and patrons will be much more comfortable next year. As you recall, it was mostly an air conditioning issue down there. So I just wanted to thank everyone for their patience, especially the staff and the patrons that were, subject to pretty excessive heat in our library this summer and the summer prior. We had a really challenging time locating parts. We were unable to do that, but we're moving in the right direction now. So I just wanted to, again, to say thank you to everyone that for their patience. Hybrid meetings. I just wanted to mention that tonight is our first hybrid meeting with the board and staff in session. Now that we have our new technology upgrades in place and they've been not only installed but tested, our October 24th meeting will be the first fully hybrid meeting. And by that, I mean, we'll have the front doors open to the public. So anyone that would like to attend in person can do so at that meeting. And before I pass the mic over to Carly and Jean from Berkshire Busk, I just wanted to mention that our trick or treat hours for this year will be on October 31st from 5:30 to 7:30, and remind everyone to leave a light on if they want to signal that they're participating. So I'll bring this forward again on the 24th as we get a little closer, but I just didn't want to wait until the 24th to mention it for the first time. So moving on to Berkshire Busk, like I said, both Jean and Carly are here to share a season recap with the board and with the public after concluding yet another successful summer. So we'll go ahead and.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. Okay, does everybody hear me
Yes,
and see a presentation that says Berkshire Busk?
yes.
Wow. I just, for the record, Carly and I did not plan to be color coordinated. I'm just first just want to say that was entirely coincidental. Anyway, we're delighted to be here, and we'd like to present essentially an overview of how the summer went and give you some data about what we collected. And so Carly's gonna kick us off.
Great, thanks, Jean. Yeah, if you just want to go to the next slide. If any of you missed us this summer, we ran from 15 weekends, Memorial Day to Labor Day. We're a music and arts festival, so we've had musicians of every genre, jugglers, aerialists, magicians, you name it, on the street in downtown Great Barrington on Friday and Saturday evenings, as well as Saturday afternoons. We were also able to have some partnerships going with the Great Barrington Farmers Market. So we had musicians there on Saturday mornings this summer. We had artists at Berkshire Mountain Distillers and in Sheffield on Saturday afternoons. And we also did a family day at Giggle Park that specifically had some children's programming. Our goals with Berkshire Busk are threefold. One is to find this new community event that's a fun way for people to come together at no cost to them. And by getting all these people in downtown Great Barrington at a free event, we're hoping to increase downtown shopping and dining. And Jean's going to go a little bit more into the statistics on that later. And then also, of course, support all the wonderful musicians and artists that we have in the Berkshires and beyond by creating new performing opportunities for them. Something new that we did in 2022 were these Saturday nights on Railroad Street. Since Railroad Street was completely closed to traffic this year, we were able to have this kind of town square European walking feel with our 2 performance stages. We had some of our higher draw acts doing rotating set times at the top and bottom of Railroad Street. The restaurants on Railroad Street were able to enhance their outdoor dining. And then we also brought in these local artists and vendors. You can see some of their tents in this photo here, and they were selling some wonderful handmade goods. And we also had some children's activities. If you saw all of the chalk on the street this summer, that was our fault. As many of you know, Berkshire Busk is funded by the community. We were able to secure 41 local business sponsors and individual donors this past season. You can see some of our top sponsors here, which of course includes the town of Great Barrington and the Downtown Cultural District. And I just want to emphasize like our wonderful performer participation. We had over 100 busker groups come with us this year. That's over 300 individual performers. You can see some of our wonderful local talent here. Most of our performers come from about an hour or less driving distance, but then we also have some who came from Texas or came from Cleveland and made a vacation out of it. And we're also lucky enough to have some career buskers that perform all around the world at different music festivals, including ours. Besides what we were able to accomplish in person, we had some significant digital reach through our social media marketing focused campaign. You can see some stats from our Instagram and Facebook over the summer here. A couple of things that I want to highlight are that we were able to increase our Instagram following by 50%, which is really great for us for only our second year. And we were able to reach over 70,000 users on Facebook. Part of what we did to support that is we did a couple of weekly Instagram live streams. So if you missed the fun and you want to see some videos of the different performers that we had, we've re-uploaded all of those live streams onto YouTube as well as our Instagram. And Jean, if you'll go to the next slide, we also launched a new TikTok channel thanks to our social media intern, where you can see some shorter clips of our performers, including this wonderful minute-long wrap-up of the summer that she did, which you can also find on our Instagram if TikTok isn't your thing. And then we also gained some great traction on our website. We had about 50,000 users per month, and we gained a couple hundred recipients of our email newsletters. In general, we're just really happy with the way that we've grown. Berkshire Busk has only been occurring for 2 years, so we're really happy to see what we've accomplished so far. And Jean, I'll pass it over to you to get more into the math.
Sure. So the social media reach, goes to the goal of getting the word about Great Barrington out to a broader public. And I think that social media definitely does that. We also wanted to understand more deeply what was the impact on the community. And to do that, we collected surveys. This summer, we had some volunteers from Bard College at Simon's Rock, and also our own staff who went around with clipboards and tapped on people's shoulders and said, would you take a minute and fill out a survey? We got over 400 of them, which gives us a good flavor of what the reaction was. So here's some of that data. To start with, we asked where people are from, and we found out that this is a true community event. The top zip codes are a little in this word cloud, but basically most of the people that came were our own town residents or other areas. Obviously, if people were in town for the summer, we had zip codes from all over, as you can tell, but people came, our community, that came out for this event on a regular basis. We are glad to say that we had all ages. You can see this little pie chart. Like this is not something for just young people or old people. We had all ages and the gender breakdown slightly skewed towards women, but it was really across the board in terms of participation. On the question about how many people were downtown for Berkshire Busk is a challenging one. We did our own sort of spot surveys where we walked around with a clicker, and at a moment in time, we would sort of click and try to get a sense of how many people were there. I did one of those myself, and on one night got 650 or 700 people at that moment. We also talked to some of the other retailers downtown to try to get a sense of how many people they saw. Our guess is that there was at least 225,000 people downtown during those weekends, quite possibly a lot more. We're going to try to figure out next year a better method of actually judging. But what I can say is that the numbers were significantly higher than last year. Obviously, getting the word out about the programming helped. Also, COVID was a little less present this summer than last summer. So combining with both the public being more comfortable being with each other and the fact that the festival was in its second year got a lot more people. We asked on the survey, well, how did you happen to be here in Great Barrington on a Saturday night? And we were heartened to learn that over 35% said they specifically heard about what was happening with Berkshire Busk, and they made it a point of coming down to Great Barrington that night. So it wasn't that they had already had restaurant reservations or they already were planning to be in town. Over a third of them said, we're coming specifically for this. Now, we asked a question that said, how much are you enjoying Berkshire Busk? And on a scale of 1 to 5, 71% said 5, 27% said 4. Nobody else said anything other than that. So we're, very few. So 98% said, this is something I'm really enjoying. And we asked a question about whether the festival had contributed positively to your opinion about Great Barrington. And again, 87% on a scale of 1 to 5 said yes. So we feel like we've had a real positive impact in helping people feel good about the town of Great Barrington and come together in community. Now, we also have an economic development aspect to what we were doing. And this year, we asked the question, are you planning to, or have you already spent money when you come downtown, or are you just sort of wandering by? And 85% said they plan to dine and or shop. And so basically, most everybody was there to spend money. We asked on average how much, and a third said that they were planning to spend over $75. On average, we think it was about $65. So you're talking about if you think about 25,000 people, 85% of whom are going to spend $60 or $70, that's a pretty big economic impact for the downtown, and that's just on Friday and Saturday nights. So we got lots of feedback. I don't expect you to be able to read this, but I will say overwhelmingly, the comments were positive. People loved the experience. They loved bringing their kids. They thought it was fun. It was really, we achieved what I hope, what Eric Brun once said to me is, we're creating a fun way for people to come together in community, and doing so, by celebrating their neighbors and their friends. And I can actually absolutely tell you that we started to see the same people over and over, week after week, on the street. So we know that, and we definitely got people that said, oh, I've come every single weekend. So that wraps up our presentation. I will say, if you weren't there in person, I'm going to just give you 2 or 3 shots. Here's one. This is probably a great shot of the performers, and you get a sense of the Railroad Street on Saturday night. And probably one of our most fun performers is a guy who performs at Faneuil Hall and around the world, called Wacky Chad, and he did a pogo stick routine that really was staggering. So that is our presentation. Here is our staff. You'll see Carly and me and interns and a couple of other people that we recruited from the area who are recent college grads. who put this program together. Special shout out also to Eric Bruin, who loaned me one of his employees every Saturday night for an hour because we needed the help in setting up. So I'm glad Carly and I will be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Anyone have any questions? Go ahead, Lee.
First of all, thank you, Jean and Carly and the whole team. I mean, another successful summer, so thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed it as many other people did. My question is really about the businesses. And I know it's one of these challenges that we go downtown and we look at some of the storefronts that are closed. And I guess I have two questions. Did you take a survey of what was open and what was closed? And do we have any thoughts of how we can do a better job of convincing our business owners or helping them to remain open, whether it's, sharing staff or getting the word around? Because you look at the economic development and you look at the empty storefronts or the closed stores. And I know the staffing is a challenge and that's some of the feedback, but it just seems like, such a missed opportunity on so many levels.
Yeah, I will say that before the summer, we went to every single store on Railroad Street and a couple of others, and we made it a point to make them aware of what we were planning to do. And we we did that with Robin's help, because we gave them a letter and some candy. So we know that they all were aware of it. We spoke with a lot of the stores before the summer and even during the summer. And really, I would say overwhelmingly, the store owners say, we simply don't have the staff, or we're exhausted ourselves. We would love to stay open, or we might think about staying open, but the staffing, we can't find people to work here and we're exhausted at the end of the day. I will say that the Crystal Essence stayed open a couple of nights. They were actually doing massages out on the street. The new Home Love store next to SoCo stayed open a couple of nights, and there were people in there. But I think this is an intractable problem. I don't think people were staying closed because they were opposed to what we were doing. They're staying closed as a practical matter of either exhaustion or staffing. And so I would love for the town, if we could put our heads together. I should say, as a parenthesis, we've already committed to doing this again next summer. We've already reached out to our sponsors. I'm pleased to tell you that we've already gotten pre-commitments from many of our top sponsors already. So our head is already in the game for next year. And Lee, to your point, we would love it to brainstorm with you, think about, there aren't that many stores on Railroad Street. And if we can help them in some way, it is a common comment from people that, why aren't the stores open? Now, this year, that comment was lessened because we had other places for people to buy. We had these pop-up stores, but, I would be open to whatever ideas people have, but I think the answer is it was just simply a practical issue that we heard over and over and over again about the staffing issue, so.
And can I jump on that just to add, it was very quick arithmetic I did, but if your numbers are right, 80% of 25,000 people spending $65 is $1,300,000. That's a lot of money on 2 blocks. That might help convince people. Also, I want to say that one of my other hats is the chair of the downtown, co-chair of downtown Great Barrington Cultural District, and our steering committee just voted to increase our sponsorship. We're so happy with this program. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, go ahead, Chief.
No, go ahead, Steve.
I just was asking.
I got a few things.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so Eugene, kind of leaning on what Lee was saying, we had a few people. It seems like the closure of the street seems to, in times, in the time of it being closed, seems to be a point of contention between the restaurants and the store owners. So I've been to Berkshire Bus several times. I think it's an amazing event in it, but I do feel that we need to work on getting the businesses involved, and because when it got brought to us a few times, it seemed to the few stores that came to us seemed to look at it as a burden on their business more so is the way I took it. So I'm curious how it could be having that many people downtown, but I think if we just opened up that line of communication more would be helpful for next season. And also just, you know, between trying to help the restaurants get the tables set up and not imposing on the parking, you know, something along those lines to be worked out before next season would be helpful.
I agree. And let me step back and say, you all on the select board voted to close the street for the first time. And we all should look at that street closure as year number one. We sort of, you know, learned as we go. We knew that there would be difficulties. We just took a stab at it, which frankly is a fantastic thing. And I'm thrilled about it. And Eric, I'm right with you, which is we were stabbing in the dark when we made the arrangements. Now we have data. Now we know. I would venture a guess that the restaurants and store owners have a lot better understanding of their business this year, or will have this year. So we fully intend to, and with Mark's help, we had at least 1 or 2 Zoom sessions. So I think this year coming up, we know what to expect, and we just didn't know what to expect going into this year. So, you know, we're trying to thread a needle, and you know, we're committed to trying to thread that needle as well as we possibly can. And I think this year should be easier.
Sounds good.
Anyone else?
Just one thing, just about staffing, I'll keep it really short. There was a business that approached me that has offered to help with their staff. They have excess staff, and they are, you know, have, I'm not gonna say who it is, but they basically said happy to tap into some of their staff to help out. So, you know, one idea is maybe to pool staff and you know, if that's helpful at all, you know, we could kind of all pull together and find those businesses that would.
That'd be very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. But look, in closing, let me just say, we are really thrilled at the support that the town manager and the select board has given us. Essentially, you've put the wind at our back now for 2 years in a row to basically go create something. And I feel like certainly this year, the reaction of the public was very, very positive. The word is beginning to get out, and there's a lot to be said about the kind of entrepreneurial nature of how the town of Great Barrington allowed its citizens to just go out and create something new. There are lots of other places, I would imagine, that would have put up lots of barriers, and you all didn't. And so I'm very, very grateful. And I'm grateful for your continued support and your enthusiasm. And Carly and I are, as I say, we've signed on for next year. So we look forward to working with you to make it even bigger and better next year.
Just want to make sure we thank you, because it wouldn't be possible without Jean and Carly and your staff to have this happen. And a number of people said to me, you know, during the pandemic, there was outdoor dining in a number of towns, but Great Barrington was one of the few towns that kept it going and expanded on it, and they were a little bit jealous. And
Good.
So they came here.
That's the idea. Great.
So, thank you very much for what you do for Great Barrington.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care. Before I go ahead, there are 6 panelists, sorry, and 26 attendees before I forget. Next, we have licenses and permits. We have a Jeremy Stoker for a driveway permit at 121 Hollenbeck Avenue. If someone is here representing the applicant, raise your hand, please.
Don't see Jeremy or anyone from Webster's.
It's the will of the board, whether we want to put this off till our next meeting because no one's here, or if you have no questions and you want to approve it, that's fine with me.
I have no questions.
So do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the driveway permit to Jeremy Stuffer of 121 Hollenbeck Avenue.
Second.
Any discussion?
I got just one thing. They're just moving the driveway up basically, right? That's,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Anyone else? Roll call vote, Garfield,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
And I, it's unanimous. Under previous business, Mark, I'll turn it over to you, Squaw Peak Road, a request to change the street name.
Okay, thanks, Steve. So it's been several months since we last discussed this request, and in tonight's posted packet, we included 3 items related to this topic. An email summary from Mr. Rothenberg, who is on the line tonight, and we'll pass it over to him in just a minute. A summary from town staff. Just dividing up the responsibilities between town staff and the residents so that everyone's going into this process eyes wide open. And then an article from thehill.com dated September 8th. So we'll go ahead and turn it over to Jeff. Jeff, go ahead. Your mic's open.
All right, thank you, Mark, and good evening to the Select Board. In the early summer, we held another neighborhood meeting attended in person or by proxy by 17 of the 18 homeowners on the road. We took a vote that indicated a clear preference for changing the road name. Each house was then invited to submit a suggestion for a new name. 13 suggested names were put forward at that time. We had 2 rounds of ranked choice voting to narrow down the options, followed by a binary vote between 2 finalists. The winning name was Woodland Hill Road, with Woodland as one word, spelled WOODLAND, without a space, winning 10-6, with 17 of 18 homes on the road, or 94% of the homeowners participating. I will also note that just last month, the U.S. government completed the renaming of nearly 650 federal locations that had previously contained the word squaw. At this point, we would respectfully suggest that this is now the appropriate time for the town to change the name of Squaw Peak Road to Woodland Hill Road, and would request your action tonight. Thank you.
Is there anyone on the line who would like to speak, especially if they're neighbors, but anyone? Jonathan Fertel. Just state your name and address for us, please.
Jonathan Fertel, 6 Squaw Peak Road / Woodland Hill Road. I just wanted to second what Jeff had said as a representative and who attended all of the neighborhood meetings. We came together as a group and we believe that it was the right choice, and we are all excited to move forward and have the town's support. That's
Thank
it.
you. Anyone else? So I know I've talked to a couple neighbors who are not in favor of this, and I understand their dilemma. It's when this is done, assuming it's done, it's a lot of work, maybe money also for residents. There's a list of changes here. Also realize that this is not a local problem, it's a national problem, and therefore it may be something that we have to do that a few people won't agree with us, and I guess that won't be the first time we've done something. But I hope all the neighbors do understand whatever we decide. Board, do you have any?
I just want to thank the citizens. This is really an example of citizens coming together and being proactive about a very important subject. So thanks, Jeff. Thanks, everyone, to everyone that participated and gotten behind this.
Yeah, a couple of things, sort of seconding on that, and just as a matter of precedence, we began with, there was a problem with the current name. Many of us might like to change the names of the roads we're on. That's not what we're doing here, right? There's a problem with the current name. We reached out to the Stockbridge Muncie band of the Mohicans, and they said that actually the letter they wrote in response, they didn't use the word squaw, they wrote S***. So that's clear that something has to happen. But the second part of this process, the incredible democratic process is, like Lisa says, great to see, especially now. So I thank the neighbors. To me, it's an easy vote.
I do have a motion.
I make a motion to approve the name change from Squaw Peak Road to Woodland.
Woodland Hill Road.
Woodland Hill Road, thank you.
Second,
Discussion. Seeing none, it's a roll call vote. Garfield,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Ed,
aye.
Lee,
Aye.
and aye, it's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to the board and thanks to my neighbors as well. Good night, all.
New business, review and comment to the zoning board of appeals on the special permit application from Dana Bixby Architecture on behalf of Michael Holber to modify a pre-existing non-conforming single-unit residential dwelling at 110 Christian Hill Road in accordance with sections 5.5 and 10.4 of the zoning bylaw.
Dana, your mic is open.
Yeah, hi, it's Dana Bixby Architecture. This is an existing house built in 1900, non-conforming with respect to the front yard setback. Shown on the drawing submitted as 23 feet 10 inches from the property line to the front porch. We're doing an addition on the rear side of the house. Most of the addition is entirely conforming with dimensional standards. As a portion of the addition, which is a new entry on the side, on the northern side, that will be 40 feet 9 inches from the property line. I believe that's something that we expect or hope, I should say, that the zoning board of appeals would be able to make a finding is not substantially more detrimental than what's existing. And I think that's the short version. I hope that's adequate. If there's any questions, please let me know.
Does anyone have any questions? Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that the select board makes comment to recommend to the ZBA on the special permit application on behalf of Michael Kobler to modify a pre-existing non-conforming single-unit residential dwelling at 110 Christian Hill Road in accordance with section 5.5 and 10.4 of the zoning bylaw.
Second,
Discussion.
just a sort of a comment that it's really more about a topic we're going to take up later, which is housing, which is, the fact that there's this hurdle that they need a special permit, that they have to spend this kind of money, not least of which is the $300 fee to build a new housing unit, which we so desperately need. I think that's on the list that we got from the planning board of possible changes, but it just seems like an extra hurdle. So I'm happy to support this, and I hope we can consider making it easier in the future for others.
Anyone else? Roll call vote. Garfield,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
and aye, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is for us to adopt a road stream crossing management plan. I believe Chris is here to help us with this, and Allison Dixon.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Chris Rembold, Assistant Town Manager. Happy to say that we have had this draft road stream management plan out for public review since you last saw the draft, I think in August. We had it out for review. We didn't receive any comments. Allison, would you like to say a little bit about the plan and how we got here?
Certainly. I work for the Housatonic Valley Association. We've been working with the town over a couple of years to complete this management plan. We're excited to get to this point of adopting it formally. We will be continuing to work with the town on the priority crossing identified on Brush Hill Road. We fortunately have funding to go through the next stage, the final design and permitting stage, which we will be doing this year. So this is a project that, even though we're adopting this management plan, it's a living document. It's should be updated, and we look forward to our continued partnership with the town of Great Barrington. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Comments? Do I have a motion to adopt?
I make a motion to adopt the road stream crossing management plan of Great Barrington.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call vote, Garfield,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
and I, it's unanimous. Allison, thank you. Chris, thank you.
Thank you, Allison.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Last on the open part of the agenda is the housing review and discuss the August 12th letter from the planning board. I can probably start this and turn it over to Chris and Mark. We have a letter in our packet from the planning board. And we have a number of really hardworking groups, the planning board, Affordable Housing Trust, the planning board, select board subcommittee, and the select board. We're all working together, to talk about affordable housing and workforce housing. It seems to me, at least, what may be missing, and a couple people have brought this up to me, is a cohesive plan to do this. Everyone has good ideas, everyone's willing to put the work in, but so far we're working as separate groups. So I welcome this letter from the planning board. And my thoughts, and I'll turn over to Chris and Mark, is that we ask that the town planner come back with some thoughts and an executive summary of how we can move this forward. Instead of just talking about some great ideas, how we can actually implement these where they're most badly needed, which is now. Mark, Chris?
Chris, do you want to take this one?
Sure. Thanks, Steve. I think that's a good idea, a good way to approach it. There are certainly some ideas put forth in the planning board's letter. There are ideas, policies, and programs that the subcommittee is looking at, and programs that the Affordable Housing Trust is implementing and looking at. And I think if staff is able to provide you with a summary with a checklist of how to move each one forward and who might be responsible for the particular actions. Lee, I think you have already started talking in that vein with the subcommittee. I think you've developed a matrix, which I think would be really helpful. But let's put that out there and make some recommendations for the board to look at, and then we can deliver it to the planning board or the housing trust, and obviously to the housing subcommittee, so that we all know who's working on what we need to coordinate on, where we can share resources and time. So,
May I interject something?
Of course.
We were speaking about this in the subcommittee, just our last meeting, and we agreed that we thought it'd be nice to get all the heads, if you will, all the alphabets in one room and sort this out, which is what we're speaking about now. But it seems like we're going to do it separately, and I think we should have this because there's major players here, and as Marshall and I spoke earlier, don't want to be tripping over each other's feet. But it seems that's the case, and I think if we're doing it separately, that might still happen when we also do it together. It's my feeling.
I think you're right, Garfield. I think once Chris comes up with an executive summary, we can present it to all the groups together. It's a working document that maybe the Affordable Housing Trust will have some ideas. The planning board may have some ideas, but at least it gives us somewhere to start. So I think both ways are possible. Lee?
So I think this is an excellent idea. As Garfield mentioned, the housing subcommittees met a few times this year. Our last meeting was starting to talk about a Great Barrington Housing Plan worksheet, Chris, which you have. So what we did with this is we started coalescing the different information, primarily from the housing needs assessment and the master plan, and also One Berkshire's strategy for housing they have. So, and a lot of it, we felt that, there's a lot of duplication. So I think that this is very welcome to make sure that we're not duplicating efforts and that we're all joined in, going in the same direction. So I welcome working with you and everyone else. So thank you.
Anyone else?
If you just, in addition to the letter from the planning board, and there's probably a lot of overlap on a lot of this, and I haven't compared, but there was a letter from a resident, James Barzone, some suggestions. And if you don't have any of these, let me know, but you probably do. There was a list that I gave the select board that they sent to you, which mostly came out of Chris's brain. So I assume you have that. And I think that, oh, and a letter from Bill Cook we just got. So just as long as you've got all of those to start with. But at some point, I think, and I don't know if it's, I suppose it starts with a recommendation from staff, but we need to look at what are the goals? How many housing units are we trying to create, of what type? And I know there's some guesswork in that, and then identify the resources. You know, at some level, all of these are expensive. Who's going to pay for it, and how much are we willing to raise taxes to pay for housing? We're going to have to come up with some idea of that before we go too far, or we're going to have a lot of really well spelled out ideas we don't want to pay for.
Yeah, I agree with you, but my assumption is when Chris comes back to us, he won't have ideas that require us to win the lottery to implement, because we're just going to be spinning our wheels again. So, yeah, no, I agree with you. Lee, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think, just looking at the housing plan worksheet that the housing subcommittee is working off of, we have a column for source, and that would either, refer possibly to the housing needs assessment, or let's say the Bill Cook's letter, or, recommendation from someone. So we'd actually have the source, we'd have a link if there was something, we'd have a note if it's in progress. So let's say if the planning board is speaking about, or the affordable housing trust funds, they're talking about it, what strategy it was, what's the demographic reach? So is it, workforce housing? Is it affordable? Is it market rate? Is it first time home buyers? And then the implementation year, what fiscal year do we actually think that we could, bring this into, bring it to town meeting, and, the responsible entity. So is it a town? Is it a CDC or a construct? Obviously, like, as you said, add goals and outcomes, and, so there is a lot of, there's so many good ideas, and it's just really kind of bringing it all together and making sure that it's going in the right direction.
What's really nice about all the input that we've gotten so far, is they're all reasonable, doable. They're not, fantastic ideas that just are impossible to implement. There's a lot of very good ideas out there. So that's good to see.
Yeah, I just, wearing my construct hat, so as development director at Construct, I will say that there is a huge need for emergency housing right now. And, just to put that on the radar, we're talking about affordable housing, we're talking about workforce housing, but I know from Construct, we're giving out tents and sleeping bags right now. And we just gave it to a family last week. So we're seeing a huge increase in emergency housing, and just to kind of put that on our radar, because I know we're focused right now on permanent housing. And, we have transitional housing at Construct for 10 individuals, but just from looking at what's happening and with the price of oil and electricity, I just want to kind of flag that emergency housing is going to be a big need in Great Barrington.
Yeah, you're right.
Thank you.
Housing
Go ahead.
issues in all shapes and sizes, and so must the strategies.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone, for this discussion. There'll be many more of these. Citizen speak time. Donna Jacobs. Go right
Hello,
ahead.
I'm Donna
Say your name and
Jacobs.
address.
Yes, hi, I'm Donna Jacobs. I'm a 70-year-old resident at 260 Park Street in the hamlet of Housatonic, and I've been advised by Housatonic Waterworks not to drink the water. I've been purchasing water since I was advised this summer, and I just want to dispel the myth about brown water. It's not just brown water. It's brown water that smells, that stains our laundry and our plumbing fixtures, and has reduced our properties to no value whatsoever. Nobody is going to buy a home that is serviced by Housatonic Waterworks. So I'm really encouraged by the statement from the town council that you're committed to the residents here and looking into and exploring viable solutions to the problem. I know it takes time. I'd like to follow up with the letter from the Board of Health. I think that it's quite clear that Housatonic Waterworks doesn't have the resources or the capabilities to provide water service delivery to this community. And I'd like to know, as the Department of Health has, or the Board of Health has asked you to provide, what are the goals? So I have a few questions. If someone could answer these tonight. What are the goals? Who is looking into and exploring and trying to find solutions to the problem? Is it somebody on the select board? Is it a special committee? What are the goals? What is the timeline? And do we have technical and engineering consultants working with the town on this problem? So those are my questions, if anyone there could answer.
Yeah, typically we don't answer questions during citizen speak, but I will say the responsibility of this is the select board, where the total responsibility, and things have gone slower than we would like, but we are the ones responsible, and we will take full responsibility.
I look forward to your updates in the coming weeks and months to reassure us that in fact energy and hours of time are being put into the problem. If you need help or if you need recommendations for people who can consult on this problem, I'm sure there are members of our community who are willing to lend a hand. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you.
Denise Forbes.
Hi, Denise Forbes, 325 North Plain Road. It wouldn't be a select board meeting if I couldn't come on and say hi to everyone. I just wanted to say thank you, Lee, for the information about switching over to the electric. That is the Great Barrington a group that we can get cheaper rates with. I didn't realize that, and I think that was great, useful information. Thank you for that. And as far as the Housatonic Waterworks company comes, I had a very interesting phone call from a neighbor down the road who's trying to sell a house, and they asked me if I could take my water signs in and take them off the road because they're deterring everyone from looking at properties in the Housatonic area. So there's a house down the road, and basically I can't do that. I can't take signs down and be dishonest and hide the fact that we're dealing with horrible water. Everyone should realize that this is impacting the market values of the properties here. No one wants to buy a house here, and for good reason. If I would have known this 10 years ago when I bought my house, I would have thought twice about Housatonic. But anyway, I just thought that was very interesting. And then my neighbor who sells produce right next door to me had an interesting conversation with Fred Mercer, who came over to buy some produce. And he basically was touting the fact he has a well and doesn't really care about everyone who's dealing with bad water, which is really not a nice thing to do, but there you go. This is what we're dealing with. So I just wanted to mention that because it just irritates me that we're all suffering with horrible water. By the way, October 25th, we are digging a well. So we're going to have a well put in on our property. And I told my neighbors, anyone who wants to come and have water from my well, come on over and I'll give you buckets or gallon bottles, whatever they want. But anyway, I just wanted to pass that on. And thanks again, Lee, for your work with the electricity.
Thank you, Denise. Michelle Louver.
Thanks, Dave. Michelle Louver, 70 Division Street. Because we're discussing Housatonic water, first off, the statement you read, Steve, was excellent. Thank you for that. But we're, the big concern is property values in Housatonic. And throughout this meeting, we're talking about projects that could very well, the town will go to the taxpayers, a vote to increase taxes. And whether it's a high school renovation or affordable housing, someone like myself saying, well, if I'm losing value on my house, do I really want to pay higher taxes? And I don't even have clean water. So there's a bigger picture here. On another matter, I attended the Transportation Committee meeting. I think it was last week. And they brought up that they have requested that 2 shelters be put in place in Great Barrington. and there's shelters that I believe are already paid for. We're talking about affordable housing, and many of the people who live in affordable housing can't afford, you know, 2 cars, never mind, or 1 car. If you've ever stood to wait for a bus, which I have, in the pouring rain or freezing cold or the heat, those shelters are really important. So I respectfully request that the select board consider it a priority to get those shelters up before bad weather comes in. Thank you.
Michelle, I'm going to shock you. We're going to give you not only an answer, but a positive answer to one of your requests. Mark there's a press release going out tomorrow, but we'll foreshadow it right now. So go ahead, Mark.
So
Okay, is Mark going to talk?
Mark is going to talk.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Mark.
I just wanted to mention, you'll see an announcement coming out probably tomorrow morning from the town for a shared streets grant for, I believe, in the range of $62,000 for bus shelters in town. So we'll be releasing that tomorrow morning.
Okay, I appreciate that. And on another note, Lee, Denise Forbes mentioned about electric, you know, the town sponsoring, not sponsoring, using electric utility. I know I'm totally confused because I'm getting in the mail day after day solicitations to join this electric company or that electric company. I don't know what meeting I missed. Maybe I dozed off during one. I don't know. But
You doze after one of our meetings, Michelle.
I know they're just riveting. But can something be put on the town website? Because
Michelle, you probably are familiar with this. We've been doing this for years. Is that the town contracts with a utility that at a lower price than National Grid.
Right.
And this year it was a little bit of a struggle, but everyone in town is opted in, and you don't have to do anything. If you care to opt out, you have the choice to do that. But this is, as you remember, we've been doing this for a number of years. This year was a struggle because everything's gone up, but we are still below that grid.
All right. Thanks so much for the explanation. Appreciate it.
We have a postcard, a mailer going out.
Yeah, and there will be a mailer going out with a reminder.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Sharon Gregory.
Sharon Gregory, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
32 Hollenbeck Avenue. First, thanks so much for your statement in the beginning of the meeting about your concern about the water, Housatonic water. I'm a little concerned about Jim Mercer being kind of the general spokesperson for the water situation, how much it costs, what the options are, and things like that. And I know you have some restraints as to what you want to say, but people consider those things as fact because there is no, countervailing force that provides any other information. It's been that way for a long time, and I was trying to figure out if there's some way that you all can have a statement that I wouldn't say is necessarily correcting it, but at least does provide alternative facts where needed. I wrote a report, as you know, and sent it to you, the governor, the AG, the DPU, the DEP, trying to pull out the facts from the various reports, especially the DPC consulting group that you all hired, as well as AECOM. I'm happy to summarize it and give you a 5-minute summary if you want to put me on the agenda, because I feel like you are a little bit more constrained than I, but I have footnoted my extensive report quite a bit. So I would like you all to just think about it so that people have factual information in front of them. And I'm free, whereas the consultants charge a lot. So mine would be basically reiteration of the consultant's report and the results of my research, which comes from the DPU filings. So that's what I have to say, and thanks for all you do.
Thank you, Sharon. Okay. We are into select board time. Garfield.
Yes, I just have a couple of questions. I've been hearing a lot about the bridge. I'm at Taft now and we're just up the street, but I'm hearing people coming in and people from Taft Farms are actually answering everyone. And I kind of feel like maybe I should have something to say, but what's our latest on the bridge on Division Street?
Yeah, it was announced at the last meeting, but you weren't there, Garfield. That's you were away. Mark, you want to?
Yeah, we're looking at substantial completion for the Division Street Bridge later this month, reopening in November. So we'll also be bringing Joe Aberdale, our new Public Works Superintendent, into the next meeting on October 24th to provide a more in-depth update at that time.
Thank you. A couple more. I had someone come to me, I have to admit, it's a little curious, but as you go to head over the proverbial rose-colored, used to be brown bridge, there's that big kind of a dip there that never seems to be fixed. Can we actually fix that permanently?
Well, we can.
We can on the Main Street side.
Yeah.
Is that what?
Yeah. Is it on the bridge or is it on the Main
It's
Street
just as
side?
soon as you turn, as soon as you make the right-hand turn to go over the bridge, there's that hole, if you will, or pothole that's been there ever since I've been here.
We'll figure out whose it is.
Yeah, you'll need a ruler to figure that out. It's
Yeah.
pretty close.
Yeah, it is on our Public Works to-do list.
There you go, Garfield.
Okay, and I'm hearing a lot of stuff. So let me just ask this. I've heard some people being very dissatisfied with the school split of the monies, and also people being very upset with the de-leveling, I believe, that's going on in the school department. So I'm wondering if that's anything we can speak on or speak to.
You know, I would be glad to speak to anyone. They would be better off to contact the school committee members or to go to school committee meetings. There's no change in funding right now, so I'm not sure what you're referring to. The de-leveling is something that we're working on, and it hasn't, I think in being in the second year, things are improving.
Isn't there a 9-10% is what I think the paper said as far as who's.
But that has to do with not the school committee at all. That's the Regional School District Planning Board. And that group has a website, a town planning board, a regional school district planning board. There's a lot of information on that, and those meetings are open to the public, and that's who they should contact. Great Barrington's representatives on that are Deb Phillips, myself, and Peter Taylor. And I know any of us would be more than happy to talk to people.
Thank you.
And so people understand that's still in the draft stages. And when it's finalized, it will be at a town meeting, but require a town meeting vote. So it's not something that the 24-member committee will finalize.
Hope you people were listening. Thank you, Steve.
Eric.
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Lee.
Two things. Speaking of bridges, I think I mentioned this to Mark and Steve. Paul over at Taft Farms has requested for Tafts to be, if they can, be the first over the bridge with their pumpkins. So that's a request that
We did
or anyone else drives over.
We did pass that request on to our engineering and construction team, so they are aware.
Yeah, so hopefully we can have a big, party. And the other thing, just speaking of Housatonic Waterworks, I did have someone from Housatonic actually mention about trying to sell a house and having a hard time due to some of the signs. And their question to me was how many residents, they're Housatonic Waterworks customer as well. They said that they don't have any issues with the water, at least what they can see, but they were asking how many are actually impacted. And I know that there was a survey sent out months and months ago, but if there's a better way, or there's a way to really hone in on how many people are impacted, because I'm not sure how that survey came out of, what the rate was for participation. But I have been asked that quite a few times, out of the 850 so customers, how many people, and what level of impact are we seeing? So, not that the town needs to have a survey, but if there's a way to have maybe another survey or just try to get a higher participation rate so we can have a sense of really what that impact is.
The only thing to remember is that by impacted, if you mean discolored water, that's not the halo acidic acid.
Oh, no,
Which,
exactly.
so I wouldn't want to mislead people, and I know you're not implying that, and tell them that as long as the water's clear, it's safe. We don't know that, and so
Yeah.
that's the little murky part of it, so to
Exactly.
speak.
And I'm not implying that it's
Yeah.
safe if it's not
No, I know you
colored, but that was a question and I wasn't able to answer that.
Okay, Sharon is gonna be our expert for 1 minute, or maybe 30 seconds. Go ahead, Sharon.
Yeah, just to be clear, the haloacetic acid is colorless. And when, that when the chlorine compounds to make that, I think it goes through the whole system. So it's not just, the discolored water. Is it? I think that's pretty correct.
Thank you, Sharon. Okay, media time. Seeing no hands up, now we're going to go into executive session, not to return to open session. These motions will take a few minutes. First is we're going to an executive session under MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A, for the following purpose. Number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation regarding Housatonic Waterworks, and excuse me, and 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate regarding Housatonic Waterworks. Do I have a motion?
I move that the board meet in executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A, for the following purpose: to discuss strategy with respect to the Housatonic Waterworks, because an open discussion may have a detrimental effect on the litigation position of the board. And 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate regarding Housatonic Waterworks, because an open discussion may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body, and not to return to open session.
Second.
Roll call vote. Garfield.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
And I. Next is to go into executive session under MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A, for the following purpose. Number 7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant and aid requirements. Do I have a motion?
I move that the board meet in executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21, to approve executive session minutes from the following meetings: August 22, 2023.
Second.
Roll call vote. Garfield.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
And I. And thirdly, executive session under MGL Chapter 38, Section 21A, for the following purpose. Number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation. If an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares, as I do. Do I have a motion?
I move that the board meet in executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A, for the following purpose: initial contract negotiations.
Second.
Roll call vote. Garfield.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
And I. It's unanimous. We are not returning to public session. So thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.